I'm here today in the Saxon Gardens at the heart of Warsaw. Since 1727, a public garden, one of the first in Europe. But it started life as something more, the garden of a palace built by the first Saxon king of Poland, Augustus II. A member of the Wettin dynasty from Saxony became kings of Poland. Why were they here? What were they doing? Why did they build this palace? And what is more, what is the Saxon axis? An exercise in urban planning. Join me in Poland Daily History today when we find out more.
So they changed it at the beginning of 19th century into the landscape art. Yes, so it used to be the parterres with the beds of flowers,
yes,
and then in rise up. So it changed also completely the view of the axis. You can see you used to have in the 18th century clear view on the palace.
Yes.
And later on it was covered also with trees. Yeah, so it was a completely different idea. I think that we are exactly now standing in the middle of the main alley, so that's the point from which a lot of the 19th century photographs were taken.
Yes, you can see
exactly
straight down
here.
to where we were earlier, to the beginning of that little plaque on the road. In a straight line we've come through the centre of the palace, through the fountain sundial, and then the axis which continues all the way down to the west and what would have been the iron gate at the end there.
Yeah, at the end on the other side there used to be the iron gate, and actually that was at the other part of the palace that was also the great saloon that we mentioned for the parties and for the fireworks. But we used to have also operalnia, which used to be the Saxon theater as well. Yes, so especially August III was a great mecenas of theater, and he was.
I mean, he was quite a patron of the arts generally. I mean, buildings, obviously, Dresden and here, the arts and so on. We probably forget. We probably liable to concentrate on his failure as a king, and not so much on his success as a patron of the arts.
Yeah, especially August III, because quite often we in Warsaw and in Poland we consider rather Stanisław August Poniatowski as a great mecenas of art and the king of the Enlightenment period. Yeah, but it was even before a lot of those new projects were started by August III, culturally and in different contexts. Yes, so the theater, for example, that was one of the best theater troupes, the Saxon troupe in Europe, actually in Central Europe. So actually, when the king was here, because part of the time he was in Dresden, part of the time he was here in Warsaw. When he was in Warsaw, we can say that it was then the center of the theater life in Central Europe.
But the theater was also demolished in the 19th century.
I mean, the first Saxon theater, it was even demolished, dismantled in 1772 because it was in a bad condition. And later on this place of the theater was built the Warsaw Stock Exchange building, pre-war Stock Exchange building, and which initially was the school for riding horses. So there were a lot of buildings around here. The school for riding horses, barracks for the soldiers also, and so on and so on.
Stables for their horses.
Yeah.
All sorts of things.
Exactly.
Okay.
Here we can see also something which is very interesting, which is the sculpture of architecture, actually war architecture. You can see those.
That's a typical, a typical fort, isn't it?
Yeah, typical fort, exactly.
The star design, yes.
Yeah. And here in the middle we have, at least on the other side also, the four sculptures which probably fully survived the war, which is also very good,
marvelous, isn't it?
Yeah. Good to remember. Yeah? So we have the architecture, but we have also music, the painting,
history.
And,
I think I saw earlier.
History. Yeah, so different allegories. Yeah.
They're marvelous. You have this in statuary. Either it's an allegory to, as you say, art, history, philosophy, or then it's an allegory to the actual philosophers themselves. And it's great. It's certainly also landscape in the 18th century generally, in any planning of any landscape. You had to have buildings, temples, statues to remind you of the sort of cultural inheritance and the cultural influences. So these gardens can also be a sort of an exercise, not just in beautiful gardens, but also history and culture.
Yeah.
Teaching you, reminding you of the...
And also the king
basis.
was showing himself as an enlightened king.
Exactly.
Yeah? And as a king who knows the philosophy, who knows the arts, and so on and so on.
He's sort of advertising that he is
exactly
responding to these influences by planting these statues in his garden.
That was kind of main advertising alley for the veterans
exactly.
in Warsaw.
These are, of course, in the days before social media, so he couldn't take a selfie in front of a book, thank God, but he gave us a beautiful statue instead, which is much better. The sort of a lesson in stone, I think.
And it was very lively placed back in the veterans period, because the veterans were organizing their first festivals, also festivals for the knights, which were riding horses and cutting watermelons from the horse.
I think cavalry
and shooting,
still do that, yes.
because especially August III and both of them, they were actually fans of shooting as well and hunting. So they were hunting dogs even in their order.
Right.
So they were doing many things here and organizing the theater. So they wanted to attract also the people of Warsaw with the theater. They weren't that successful. That was rather the next period of the Stanisław August Poniatowski, when the people of Warsaw really get involved into the theater in Warsaw, actually.